Hola, you are listening to First Gen Healing, a podcast on Latinx healing and awakening journeys. My name is Priscila Luna. I am your host, and I'm so excited for today's episode because we have a beautiful mujer as a guest.
Yay! Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. So my name is Claudia, and I am a first gen Latina daughter of Mexican parents, the oldest daughter of Mexican parents. And I live out here on the west side in Seattle, Washington, and I'm a first gen Latina business coach. So that's a little bit about me.
Yay! Yes, okay. Well, you already said it, but I definitely want to talk a little bit more about that. I feel like as the eldest, we get a very unique experience. So, did you say eldest of how many?
Yeah, so there's four of us. I have an older brother,
Okay.
but there's three girls that follow, and I'm the oldest of all the girls. So the oldest
Okay.
daughter, I'm the second one, which sometimes feels like I'm the oldest either way. My siblings forget that. They kind of see me as the oldest anyway. So yeah, there's that.
And did you grow up in Seattle your whole life? Is that where you were born?
No, I was actually born and raised in Eastern Washington. So, Eastern Washington is where we have a lot of the Latino population, a lot of ranchitos and the orchards and the farm
Mm.
life. A lot of immigrants go there to work. So, that's where I grew up. I came to Seattle because I was exposed through college. And then after graduating, life just led me back to Seattle. So, this is where I'm at, which is very different. There's not many Latinos here. So that's
Mm.
another topic to to dive into later, but that's the topic about community. So yeah.
Interesting to know. Well, as you know, the podcast is about healing and awakening. So, would definitely like to know which one you resonate with most, and when do you think that journey started for you?
Yeah, healing definitely calls my name the most. It started when I started my entrepreneurship journey, which was back in 2019. A little bit about myself is that I've always been that 4.0 girl. I did it all. I got to college, got the degrees. Then I went into a job and I was like, I don't know, I want to do something else because I love to travel. And what fit perfectly with traveling, starting an online business and taking it full time. So when I started this business journey, I had no idea what it meant to, like the term of healing or a healing journey or
Mm.
any of that. I was not exposed to that whatsoever. I was not exposed to the personal development world, to any of that. And it was that
Mm.
year strongly, and even more every year after that, where I have learned so much about myself, of how much I need to heal, of all the past traumas, of how I was raised, and everything that I've been carrying with me that I had no idea because it has been on autopilot for so long. So it was, yeah, 4 years ago when I really started this work, this inner work, and
Yeah.
it's ongoing. It's always something new that flourishes, that comes up, that I'm ready to just dive into. But I would, yeah, take it back to 2019.
2019. Okay. So I'm wondering prior to that, I know I asked you for like the start date, but it's interesting because you're saying like I had no idea about this stuff, and what I was carrying. And I feel like it was the same for me and some of the other people that I've talked to. Like
Mm.
it's not like it was a gradual, like lead up into this where we were like, we know something's wrong. It kind of feels like we carried it without knowing, right? And then it like becomes something that like, oh, either it's too heavy and we have to put it down and like uncover it, or something else happens. So prior to 2019, were there inklings of like something's, like whether it's your relationship with your parents or your siblings or work, like were there already some flags that looking back you can be like, yeah, there were things already popping up, or was it really like a surprise in 2019, like that all of this stuff existed?
Oh my gosh, I love everything you just said because I'm like, yes, 100%. Um, oh my gosh, I feel like back then I didn't know. I didn't know. I didn't know what was there. I was just going through life. Like, I don't know. I thought everything was
Yeah.
normal. I was living life like I was supposed to, quote unquote. And then 2019 came, and that's the word that you said. A lot of things got uncovered. And now looking back prior to 2019, I'm like, oh my gosh, I see it everywhere. The little things that I've been carrying, or that I needed to uncover back then. One of the things biggest things for me, huge people pleaser in friendships, in family, and in work. And one of the biggest things that I noticed in myself also had to do with like money mindset and taking up space and being seen. So, for example, whenever I would hold a job or get a job, I didn't feel worthy of it. I always felt intimidated by like anybody that had been there longer than me or anybody that was like authority. I was very intimidated by authority. And I understand, oh my gosh, growing up, I always had to be perfect in front of authority, which were my parents, or I couldn't really speak up or voice my needs or anything like that. And so that I carried that into careers. And then I would ask myself, I do remember asking myself, like, why do I feel so intimidated by these people? Like, I know I have the skills, I have the experience, but why do I feel like I need to play small or I need to just apply to the lower level jobs because I'm too intimidated to even shoot for more? I was playing small so
Mm.
much. And I think back then I did have those thoughts of like, why am I playing small? Why am I so intimidated? Why am I not going for more? I know I could do more, but like, what's this holding me back? But back then I was like, I don't know, whatever, like just apply for the job, get the job going. Like, but now it's like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, so many things get uncovered. I'm like, oh my gosh. So much that goes into it, but that would be one of the biggest things that I can think of right now.
Wow. I think you mentioned something that's been coming up for me lately. I just had another conversation with someone where it was like, it was at work, at home, like with my friends. And that's the thing that I think people don't realize is like maybe I think when we start to bring these things up to our family or our friends or our siblings, they might be like, well, what's the big deal though? Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone has problems, or you're like focusing on this too much, you know? But I think the character that certain of us play, like we, for example, people pleasing, perfectionism, honoring, like hierarchies, right? Honoring those above us. All of those things play into all aspects of our lives. And so when we find like that there's a root cause for it, it's like mind blowing, like, whoa, this was the thing, you know, that was impacting all others. And this is why it's exhausting to play this type of character in the first gen community, you know, because it impacts and touches all things. I mean, obviously, probably every like oldest sons, right, or eldest daughters, like we all have different things. But I think that I've just come to know like first gens that are like eldest acting in the family, they act this way in all settings. And so they over, if the root is overextending and people pleasing, then they'll overextend and people please with friends, with family, with work, which leaves us like burnt out, right?
100%. Oh my gosh, yeah.
So
And everything as you said, I'm like perfectionism. I didn't even know I was a perfectionist until like
yeah.
I started my entrepreneurship journey. I didn't know how much of a people pleaser I was until my entrepreneurship journey. I didn't know how achievement oriented I was due to me wanting to hear the external validation from those accomplishments from teachers, from college professors, from my work evaluations of how great I'm doing, my sports coaches, because I didn't
Mm.
get that from home. And I'm like, this is why I'm so achievement oriented. Like, what's next? What's next? I need to get that external validation. And I didn't know that that was what was driving me to kind of like fill that emotional void that I never got at home. And it was like, oh my gosh, mind blowing. Like you're saying, it's been very awakening. So yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, you touched on something too, like the so you mentioned something juicy, the emotional void from home.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, you know, I don't have the answer. I haven't talked to all first gen, so I don't know. But it's the people that I have talked to, I feel like we're really taught to appreciate what we are given, right? Like, because our parents likely had it worse. So we like learn to bypass the cracks, you know, and we learn to fill those voids. And like you mentioned, achievement can be one of those things that fills that void for us, right? And makes us feel complete even though there's something lacking. I'm
Yeah.
wondering, like you mentioned, entrepreneurship is kind of what brought all of these things to light. How did that actually start to unravel for you? Like, was it one thing after another? Was it one big thing? Like, what did that actually look like for you in your journey?
Yeah, I think it was one thing after the other. It like I would discover one thing or uncover it and start working towards it, and then something else would come out of it, and something else would stem, and something else would stem, and something else would stem, and that's when I realized, oh my gosh, there's so much that I have to dig through. And so in the beginning, one of the biggest things that I saw in my entrepreneurship journey was, I don't know, I always saw myself as like, oh, I'm someone that has a high self-esteem. I've accomplished so much, going back to that achievement oriented type of person. But
Yeah.
then I was so scared to do so many things, like start voicing what I was doing or that switch of career that I wanted to do. And I was like, why am I having such a hard time feeling seen? What is this? And so I kind of like explored that. And then when I started growing my business, I'm like, why do I feel like I want to please everybody? And in the online space, it's like you have
Mm,
to like find a community that you want to work with, not talk to everybody. And for me, it was like, I'm a why do I feel like I have to speak to everybody? And it was that people pleaser in me, like what if they don't like my content? What if like this happens? All the negative thoughts came to mind, but it was like, no, like I don't have to be perfect in the eyes of everybody, which I was so used to carrying on my back for so long. So the people pleasing kind of came up. Um,
yeah.
and it kind of just went like that, one after the other after the other. Then I realized I was a perfectionist with my business. I'm like, why? Like I started um creating so many tasks in my day that were very unrealistic, and I didn't meet them. So then I would be
Mm,
like, wow, like what am I, why can't I achieve this? And the next day I'm like, I'm gonna put up all tasks again and try my best to reach them, and I wouldn't reach them, and I would be like, what is this? I can do it the next day and the next day. And it was the same thing, and I would always land short because my standards and my expectations were so high,
mm,
unreasonably high. And I'm like, I didn't know what that was at first. I thought I was like, I need to be more productive. I need to try other methods of try to accomplish all of this. And I was just overpiling my plate. And I didn't understand that until I took a pause. Took a step out, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is what a perfectionist is. Like
mm.
setting unreasonable expectations, and if you got 10 things on your plate, you got to make 10 of them happen. If not, that might mean something bad about yourself. And oh my gosh, like it kind of happened like that, one after the other after the other. And those are just things that, have come up, and more things are coming up now. So yeah, it's gradual.
Yeah. Ooh, well, I think one thing for sure is just like it takes time, right? Like as these things come up, like just having that patience and grace over yourself because it's new information to you, right? And I think like once we discover it, the type of people that we are, it's like, well, now I want to improve it and I need to see improvement now because this is who I am, like since you're like already driven by achievement, you can translate that into whatever you do next, whether it's entrepreneurship or motherhood or whatever like comes up. So I'm wondering like what gave you the knowledge to know, oh, this is perfectionism. Like for example, for me, I think it was a lot of podcasts and like videos, like YouTube and stuff, and eventually books. But I'm wondering for you, what were those like stepping stones that were telling you like this is what it is and this is how you can change it?
Yeah, I first started hearing about that through my mentor. She would kind of like share things that she had gone through, and I'm like, wait, that's me. Oh my gosh, that's perfectionism. What? I have that. I am that. What is that? And so that's where I really started to then dive into like, okay, let me listen to podcasts about it, YouTube, books. But I do remember all of those very first instances were through my mentor, because she has already gone through a lot
Mm,
of what I've kind of gone through. And it was like, wow, that was very, like, again, mind blowing to know, you're learning something new about yourself. And it's like, what? Let me learn more about.
yeah. Yeah. So as you're learning these things, and we've like messaged before, and I'm like, I feel like we're on a similar wavelength because of the kind of the story of like recognizing, wow, what I've been doing doesn't involve me, like who I truly am, what I truly want. It's more so backed by the story, at least for me, it was backed by the story of my parents' sacrifices and seeing it, not even just them telling me, it's literally seeing like their hard work and feeling like I had this debt to pay them, you know, through my achievements. And I also strongly resonate with or know that when you want to pivot, when you recognize like corporate or this career that I picked is just not fulfilling me, because I'm sure you did a good job, I feel. Because I was, you know, we do a good job. I mean, we're good workers. That's the thing. Like, it's not like people are kicking us out of jobs. It's like, I'm doing a good job. I can probably make a good living for the rest of my life with this job, but I don't want this, you know? And I feel like that's so hard to say, and it can feel like betrayal to family. So I for anyone that's listening and maybe is finding themselves in that spot, because it can take years, we can take years in that spot. I'm wondering like how that looked like for you and what helped you like really step into it's okay.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of everything. I get. Well, okay, so taking you back. So when I decided to like pivot careers, I was actually in grad school. And so I had to tell them two things. I'm like, oh, like
Mm,
I don't want to do grad school anymore, and I'm gonna leave this job to pursue entrepreneurship. I think one of the things with me that kind of helped me through that is that I consider myself like very independent.
mhm,
So the choices that I've made have heavily been because of everything you said. Like, I want to make sure that I give back to my parents and have them feel proud of me. And like, I feel like I owe them so much through this. But at the same time, with my choices, I've always been like, I know what I kind of want. I'm going to go after it. I have that type of mentality of like, if I want something, I want to go get it. Again, I think
mm,
under that umbrella of like achievement oriented, like I want that, and I want to try to find a way to get it, even though it might take so many challenges, but I want to get that. So in my mind back then, I wanted to travel the world, and that sparked so much joy in me. It is my passion. I freaking love it. I studied abroad in college, and the travel bug bit me. So the main reasons why I wanted to make this pivot was to tap into that passion. And I was like, there is no way that I'm gonna say no to that passion just to please the opinions of others, which in this case were my parents. But I feel like passion was way bigger, like the way it makes me feel, what I wanted out of it. And I think that really helped me of like, I'm the type of person who is very independent. And when you attach that to passion, I'm gonna go where my heart desires. I'm gonna go where my heart desires, which is bigger than the fear. So that for me,
mm,
I'm like, my passion and my heart are telling me to do this, even though I'm freaking scared to death right now. Um, so then the way I kind of told them, it was wishy-washy. It wasn't like, I'm quitting to go into entrepreneurship. They don't even know what entrepreneurship is. Like, they don't know this world. Like back then I was like, hey mom and dad, so, and again, this was my wording. It was like, yeah, I'm gonna start working online. It was something along those words. Like, I didn't give specific details because I know that questions and doubt and pullbacks and, oh, I know my parents, like, they would be, wondering about what are you doing, and I didn't want to hear that. So I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna, start working online. I'm just gonna transition. And they're like, what is that? And I'm like, oh, just I'm learning to do like sales and business and like that. Like, I try to just keep it super, super surface level, because back then
yeah.
I was also starting. So I didn't have all the knowledge or details that I know now. So I was kind of scared of like, I'm going to say the
Mhm.
wrong thing, voy a meter la pata, like, or I'm going to let their fears or doubts like pour onto me, and that's going to make me feel even like, I don't know, more scared. So that's kind of like how it went. And they were like, okay, like, as long as you're getting paid for it. Like, they literally were just like, okay, cool. Like, they asked, surprisingly, like, no questions about that. And then they saw me leave my career in education. They saw me start working remotely, and that's it. For them, that was enough, a sufficient answer of like, she's working online in sales. Like, that's literally all they really got out of it. And they never really questioned me after that.
Wow,
Yeah,
okay.
so that's how it was.
The least you say, the better, or like the less you say, the better.
That was my plan. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. How interesting too, how you're saying like passion and like drive, right? Like it's kind of what was the fuel behind like, it's okay, whatever happens, like I'm still gonna do this.
Yeah.
Super interesting. I had like a flashback of a memory with my mom where I was in the part of my journey where everything was an option and nothing was an option. Like I was considering everything and nothing at the same time because I didn't know myself, right? Like I went from being this HR professional that was going to climb the corporate ladder and was doing that, and that was going to be my life. And then I realized like I actually don't give two F's about what I do here. Like,
Yeah.
no, I do, but like I just didn't love it. You know, I could be passionate, like I can because I have passion, but it just wasn't feeding my soul. It felt really transactional. The gap though for me, and I think you've mentioned it in your content, is like, but I don't know myself. So like what do I want? You know, like where do I want to end up? Because like is it a business? Is it another career? You know, like you start to question, and because there's not a lot of guidance on, at least for me, like on the family side, it was like Googling drop shipping, being an
Yeah.
influencer,
Yes.
like like what am I gonna do, you know? So I'm wondering like if you experienced that phase too, and like what helped you like identify this is where I'm going next.
Oh yes. I was there. So the thing that really led me to my entrepreneurship journey was the fact that what I mentioned, I love to travel. And at that point, I was like, I want something to do in life where I'm like so passionate about it. And it was traveling. But at the time, I was like, how can someone do that? Like, and there I was. I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship, okay? Nothing. But there I was Googling, all right, how to work from home, working remotely. And I got like being an online translator, being an online teacher, all
Mm,
these things. But I was like, that's still not going to give me the type of flexibility and finances to actually go and travel the amount of traveling that I want to do. And then I came across an online business opportunity. I came across entrepreneurship. I was like, what the heck is this? And I decided to like learn more about that because that checked off all the boxes. It was like you learn a skill set and you're able to take it full time. Once you take it full time, you're able to have that flexibility because you create your own schedule and you can kind of create your own finances through that. And I was like, say less. Let's dive in. Like, I was so scared, knew nothing about it, knew no one in my surroundings. So I didn't really know who to ask. It was all me taking these decisions by myself. I wasn't even
mm,
to my friends, to my siblings, nothing. I was like, I don't know what this is, but again, my heart, everything about like me is like, I want to follow my heart and what makes me truly, truly happy. And I was like,
yeah.
this seems like something I can like tap into. And I just decided to take that leap of faith and I did. And boom, that's kind of like where it all started.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So it was more like it sounds a little bit also logical. Like maybe the passion emotional side was I want to travel. And then like what do I
Yeah.
do to do that? Like it was more logical.
Yes. Yes. Because
Mm,
prior to that, I was very clear on my career. I was 100% clear. I am so passionate about working with first gen Latino students. That's what I was
mm,
doing. And I'm very passionate about that. When I was going to college, loved my courses, loved volunteering, loved everything I have done in the education system. There got a point where traveling and experiencing new cultures, and because I was abroad for so long, there was multiple study abroads that I did that I was like, I want more of this. And that passion was bigger at the moment of working with for my first gen students. And I was like, okay, I've done this for a couple of years of working in education. How about let's finally start diving into that other passion of mine? Because if it's not now, then when? Like I'm young, I have no kids, like let's do this. And I think that
yeah.
it allowed me to take that leap into what you said. Like it was that passion that I wanted to follow and finding strategies to get there. And at that point, I was like, I don't care what it is. Like literally, I was like, I don't care what it is if it's
Give
gonna get me to my end goal. Like I think that the only thing that I did care about was like, I have to enjoy it. I always said that. I'm like, whatever it is, I'm not gonna kill myself for it. I want to enjoy it, and
Yeah.
that way I can enjoy like just living my life and not feeling burnt out or like hating to wake up to a job.
Yeah. Did you do like a hybrid where you were kind of working on your business and also working your job, or did you cold turkey it and like start your business?
No, I when I started my business, I continued with my job for another year. So I was
Okay.
growing my business on the side.
Okay, okay. And was it hard to finally make the decision to leave? Like to say, okay, I'm done with, because I feel like, at least for me, it felt like security. As much as, like it could be an illusion, let's say, it did feel like this is where my paycheck is coming from and I know I'm gonna get paid this much. So was that like a hard decision for you, or were you like ready to let that go?
I was ready, but it was the scariest decision because of what you said. That's security. It's like a fixed paycheck coming in. And so for me, it was like, I'm so ready. Like, let's do this. But like, once you go full time in entrepreneurship, it's like, yo, like you have to secure that income yourself. You're no longer having that bi-weekly paycheck or monthly paycheck. And it's like, okay, like the amount of self-trust that you have to have is insane. And I've never really experienced having that amount of self-trust in myself. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, I'm just gonna do it. I'm so scared. I really don't know what's gonna happen. Like, but like I'm ready. I just felt ready and excited, yet I was nervous and scared to death at the same time. But I just trusted that I was gonna make this work. I was kind of like burning the ships. I was like, I'm going all in. Let's do this, and that's what happened.
Okay. Were there like what other aspects came into it? Like, was there like a savings, like how did you kind of prepare yourself, especially knowing you're a fellow like independent woman where it's like likely that you pay all your bills and you kind of handle all that by yourself. What did that look like for you? Like to be like, okay, I'm ready to take that step.
Yeah. So money and finances is a whole other game for me that I had to learn. So I would have probably done things differently back then, but um, I I kind of had projected what I was going to be making after I quit my job for the next couple of months. And I did have like a little savings. I'm not saying like it was a couple of months of no, I was not good at saving. That is something that through my entrepreneurship journey, I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I do? I really did a crazy thing when it came to that of not really gathering more funds. But
Mm.
I believed so much in the projections that I had in my business. I was seeing it all laid out, and I was like, I'm trusting that that's gonna come through. And yeah, I feel like I relied, it's crazy to say, but I relied more on my business income, the projections of the following months, than I did on my savings. Because I
Mm.
money mindset for me, I was at this end of the spectrum, like that lower end of money mindset. I didn't know how to manage money back then, didn't know how to save, didn't know what emergency funds were, didn't know any of that. I literally just took the leap of faith and just job. Not the like most logical idea then, but I just, again, that self-trust and the projections that I had in my business and the belief that I had in myself really came out winning in that scenario. And I was just like, this is it. It was at the end of the academic year as well. And I was like, perfect, let's cut it clean right here. It's at the end of the academic year. That way I don't have to leave halfway and leave my students. Like I can say goodbye to them at the end of the year type of thing. So it kind of worked out that way as well.
Yeah. Ooh, okay, okay. Interesting. Do you, by any chance, like, do you like astrology at all?
I am learning about it. My sister is huge on that. I don't
Okay.
know much about it, but what I do know, I get it from her and another friend. So yeah.
Okay. I was just like listening to you and I was like, ooh, like I wonder what her signs are. Cause I feel like definitely you are driven by passion and something airy. Like I feel like that just like fuels you. I don't know what like your signs are. But for me, I'm Leo too, and Aquarius, actually Aquarius moon, but I'm a Capricorn rising. And that like grounds me to the point where I couldn't have done what you did. It was like
Oh,
very like we need to ground first and we need to have like some savings and then we can take the leap.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I know now that you're asking me this, I'm like, oh my God, I sound so crazy. Like if my sister were to do that, I would be like, are you sure? But oh my gosh, yeah.
Wow, okay. Super interesting. So you started your business and then that's when all things came out. It sounds like where you were like, "Oh, I'm all of these things."
Yep.
So did it take the like not passion but like the drive a little bit away when you realized all of these things, or was it like, okay, cool, like this is just something else I need to work on? How did you approach it, I guess, when it did start to unravel?
Yeah, it was like, wow. Like, what's the best way to put it? I was like surprised. I was shocked that those were parts of myself that I didn't know. I was already in my mid 20s when this started happening. And I was like, I'm learning this new side of me that I didn't know, that I'm barely tapping into. So it was definitely quite the shock, quite the surprise. It was definitely a challenge because it's a lot of inner work. And at the same time, I valued it. I appreciated that these things were coming up because it allowed me to start working on myself. And by working on myself, it allowed me to start healing my relationships with my parents, with my siblings, with my friends. And I was like, okay, cool. Like I'm working through this. Whatever comes next, I'm ready to start working on it because I see the growth that I'm experiencing through this, and I'm seeing the transformations that I'm having in my mindset, in my energy, in my actions. I'm seeing how it's affecting those around me. The more things came up, the more I worked on them, the more I was able to also share those type of experiences with my siblings. So whenever things would come up, I
Mm,
would share that with my sisters, and we would start talking about it, and then we would be like, oh, what, look at that. And now we're kind of like in that same bubble of like, oh, it's our past trauma, oh, it's this, versus before none of that conversation ever existed until I started my
yeah.
journey. We really started talking about this, but before, none of that ever happened. And now you find us talking about, oh my gosh, like attachment styles in relationships and our past trauma, and like the different, how the middle child is and the oldest and the youngest, and like who in the family is the outspoken one and why, and why some of us have more or like that fear of like expressing our needs and things like that. And now we're having those conversations that I truly enjoy. So it's definitely been that roller coaster, I guess I would say.
Yeah. Does it sounds like you had like a positive experience, like with all of these things coming out and opening the doors to those conversations. I'll be honest, usually I think on the podcast, it's more of like the negative experiences that people have. Like, I think as leaders in that way in the family, it can be difficult when people aren't receptive to it, like parents or siblings. I think mostly parents. But I'm wondering, like, was there any of that in your situation, or do you feel like everything you were exploring and learning was well received from those around you?
I think in general, because in Washington, it's just my immediate family and my siblings and I just grew up with ourselves, like no cousins, ni las primas, ni tíos, nada. So we kind of always
Mm,
had this tight, close relationship. So that was well accepted when with our conversations. And I think what you're bringing up about those, yeah, what I'm saying is like, okay, I chose to relook at it in this perspective of like, okay, I'm growing from this, I'm working on this. But there's also that side where it definitely like it hurts, it's shocking, it's painful, and there are some things that I'm still going through that it's like, okay, give yourself patience, give yourself grace, it's okay, like all these things, right? Like one of the things that I'm still working through this day is like, and I think, yeah, it's been a lot better, like validating myself versus wanting the validation of others or external validation. Like where at
mm,
one point I was so achievement oriented in high school. I mean, the four O's, right? In college, like literally, I don't know how I got those grades. I worked my butt off, but I'm like, oh my gosh, that's crazy how did I manage that? And in my business, also being achievement oriented, but at the end of the day, it's like, no, I don't want to be that. I don't want just a title and be like good job for doing that, because then it's like, oh, well, what's next? Then I'm just looking for something to give me that sense of like, I'm enough. But now
Yeah.
I'm really working on that, right? I'm like, I am enough and I want to validate myself, and I don't need anything to prove that. I am enough regardless of what I do, what I make, like what I'm pursuing, it doesn't matter. So like I feel like that has been one of the biggest areas where even with like expressing myself with, oh, in conversations with my family, and my sisters know this, they're like, Claudia, you never open up, or like, why don't you express your
Mm.
needs or what you want, or like this and that. And I'm like, I'm working on it, oh my gosh, it's so hard. I'm not one to, I'm working on it, but I'm not one to like express my needs or ask for help. I am super hyper independent, which is not the greatest place to be at. And that's something that I'm like trying to work with. And I feel like, yeah, there's a lot of moments where I'm just like, oh, it's okay. Like, okay, today was like rough, but you know, tomorrow we can go at it. Or like every week, I just really, really hone down on what are those nitty gritty little things that I really need to work on, because I get triggered
Yeah.
often. And
Mm.
sometimes I feel like others don't understand, even when it comes to my siblings, because I had a very unique experience. I mean, I guess each of us siblings do. Um, so yeah, I think I went all over the place, but yeah, those.
No, I mean, it's cool, like to admit there is things that we still work through and like that come up, right? Because I think there isn't like, it's not like you can go to the doctors and get a list of what's wrong. Like, what do you need to work on? It usually doesn't work that way. Like, it comes when, like you said, you get triggered by an action of someone else or a new project that excites you but scares you, and you're like, no, but I'm worth it. But like so especially like being an entrepreneur and knowing that you're like for now a solo, right, entrepreneur. So like you said, if you're already hyper independent and you kind of took this decision on your own, I bet there's like some also personal pressure of like I have to make this work, and
Or I
and
feel
so
so much
knowing
pressure. Yeah.
I'm sure because we like I feel like, and I say we because I think I see like the characteristic traits throughout, but it's like if we're gonna do something, we're gonna do it right, like we don't half-ass anything. So I can totally get that. And I'm wondering like what are some like what does your support look like, or how do you manage these types of new challenges that come constantly with entrepreneurship?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that I, oh, thankfully been introduced to do this on a daily basis. Like my type of personal like support within myself is self coaching. So I do a lot of journaling every single day to lay out my thoughts and lay out my feelings and really go within of like, why did I say that, or why did I behave that way? Why do I feel like that? And really pausing and understanding how that's going on my day to day, versus in the past, it was bottling it all up. Somebody
Mm.
asked, I'm like, everything's fine. You know, we put on this mask of like, we got it all together. We're independent women. No, like it's not, and so I'm like, no, Claudia, like I have to be real and honest with myself. And this is how I do it. Self-coaching. It's called the self-coaching model by Brooke Castillo, for anybody that wants to look into that. But one of my mentors taught me that. And ever since I started journaling through that, it's been really like therapeutic every single day. And also just finding community just like yourself. When I came across your content, I was like, oh my gosh, like she gets me. So
Yeah.
really connecting with other, whether it be first gen Latinas experiencing a similar path, or first gen Latina entrepreneurs and my mentors, people that I can really be open and honest with, like, oh, like just let it all out, and knowing that they understand me. Like on this call right now, or on this podcast, I know that I can say so much and that you understand where I'm coming from. And it's
Yeah.
the support that I love, because when you're talking about something like this type of conversation with people that may not understand it, you just don't feel heard, seen, or understood. So for me, it's like finding that community that really allows me to feel heard, seen, and understood. And that's kind of like a big community that I have found in the online space. And then other than that, I do have a few entrepreneur friends around in the area that sometimes we meet up in person, and that's even, oh, that's beautiful. So that has helped a lot. And then I also live with my sister, and we have very great open communication. So I
Mm.
kind of just go back and forth with those combos, and that those would be like my type of support systems.
Yeah. Ooh, so beautiful. I
Mhm.
think I'm listening to you and I'm like, yeah, I think like all of those things take time though, to build that kind of support. Just
Yeah,
like thinking of like a new baby entrepreneur that's maybe listening and is like, oh my God, like how do I get all that, or how do I get supported in that way? So knowing that there's other ways of getting support, like fellow baby entrepreneurs, right? And also like podcasts, just different types of things that can support you along the way.
I'm 4 years into my business. So if you had interviewed me year
Mm.
one, oof, that would have, my answer would have been different. Okay. I was not journaling. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what self-coaching was. I only had one mentor, but that one mentor was not a first gen Latina, was not a Latina,
Mm.
was not a parent, daughter of immigrant parents. So she was just a business mentor. So through that first year, I definitely felt very lonely, super lonely. I was like, what am I doing? Like, like, am I the only one doing this? Am I the only Latina entrepreneur out here? Am I the only high achieving Latina? When I got in this space of entrepreneurship, my first year was all filled with like a space where I was like the only first gen Latina that was like moving up the ladder. Like it was a digital marketing community where, I mean, I only saw one other Latina, and she was half Honduran, and then came me, and everybody else was like Caucasian, and that's where I was like, whoa, that this kind of sucks. Like I don't know, like I made this decision and I'm here and I'm loving what I'm learning, but I feel so lonely. I don't know, who do I turn to? My friends don't know about entrepreneurship. My mentor
Yeah.
is Latina. My friend, like my siblings, nothing around me knows about entrepreneurship. And so what do I do in this case? And in that sense, I did like tap into what you were saying, podcasts for newbie entrepreneurs. That's really where I was diving into motivational YouTube videos, things like that, just trying to find people in the space that I could really resonate with. Then I came across Jasmine Star, the first Latina entrepreneur that I ever kind of heard of. And then from there, I was like, wait,
Mm.
there's other girls out here. And that's when I started searching on Instagram more community. And then here we are, Priscilla. I came across you. So
Yeah, so cool. I think you also mentioned, I mean, you've been mentioning something really important, which is like finding like-minded people, right? And like people that understand. I think similar to you, when I first even was in like my personal development, like, era, let's say, the people that I were listening to was not first gen people, it was not Latinos. And I think it like automatically like makes you feel isolated, like I'm the only first gen, I'm the only Latina that like cares about this stuff. And in my circle, it kind of did feel that way for a little bit. Now everyone's kind of on the same journey, but for the beginning it did feel that way. So I totally resonate with how important it is to find like-minded souls or humans, that are on similar journeys. And I think it's super cool that now like people like you that are on social media and like I and other people are showing up, because that's what we needed, like that visibility so that others can come and seek support from people like us.
100%.
So we know you're a entrepreneur. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you actually like are doing now and where people can find you?
Yeah, so I'm a first gen Latina business coach, and I help first gen Latina coaches break through their biggest mindset blocks so they can generate more four-figure sales. In the beginning of my journey, that was what was holding me back. I thought I needed strategy to get the sales, but it's like, no, 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 no. The number one thing is your mindset blocks, pushing past them, and then focusing on strategy. So that's a little bit of what I do. And then what was the second part you asked me?
Yeah, and where can people find you?
Oh, yes. And you can find me on Instagram. I'm at Claudia Valenzuela Flores. I know, long name. I couldn't shorten it. Instagram did not have my other names available. So it's Claudia Valenzuela Flores.
Okay. And Instagram, right?
Yes. And also, if you
Okay.
want to check out information on my services on one-on-one coaching, that's what I do, private coaching at the moment, 3-month coaching container at firstgenlatinaceo.com.
Ooh, I love that. Okay, okay. All right. So the next section is resources. We've heard a little bit about, well, a lot about your story. You walked us through like what has come up for you and how you've managed those things and what you're currently doing now. So with anyone that's resonating, I always like to ask some of the things that helped you so that they can look them up too and leave with something to, look up for themselves. So my first question is, what is your favorite healing or mindful tool?
Yeah, my favorite healing tool, I'm going to have to say what I do on the daily, what I just mentioned on part one, is that self-coaching. Really analyzing my thoughts, because our thoughts lead to our feelings, and our feelings lead to our actions and our behaviors. And when we act or behave in certain ways, we get the results that we are currently experiencing in life. So with my business, all my business results have to do with my thinking and my thoughts and my limiting beliefs. And so when I am scared, when I am nervous, when I am anxious, when I am overwhelmed, I'm like, all of these feelings are coming from certain thoughts. What are those thought patterns? Because our thought patterns, they come with us every day. 95% of what we thought yesterday come into today. So a lot of us are living on autopilot. So I want to make sure to disrupt those limiting belief patterns. And I go straight into self-coaching, which is just journaling. When I'm thinking, when I'm feeling, the actions that I took, the results that I'm getting, and just being really self-aware of that on a daily basis. And also because journaling just helps me with self-regulating, and it just helps me, it just feels very therapeutic. So that would be my number.
Yeah. Yeah, super helpful tool. I think it's so interesting, like how you use it for this specific reason, which is like self-coaching, you said.
Yes.
In my coaching, I also my clients also do journaling. And how I see it is like we can keep a lot in our heads, especially as independent first gen eldest acting, like we're problem solvers, but when it comes to our own problems, we like let it bubble in up, in our worlds. So when you start to like put that down on paper, it leads way to self-coaching, to
Yeah,
self-analyzing and like also like an exit point, otherwise we kind of just bubble it all up within ourselves.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay, what is a habit, well, maybe it's the same and it's fine, a habit that you do for yourself every day?
Yeah, of course I do journaling every day. But a habit that I've really enjoyed and I've kept it a consistent habit for quite a while now is meditation. Meditating and visualizing. I mean, I didn't know, I didn't know what meditating or visualizing was back in the day, but when I came across that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so helpful. A lot of what I do are guided meditations and guided visualizations, which, if anybody wants to tap into them, they're on YouTube, 2 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute, 10 minute longs. Some of the ones that I'm doing are like a 20 minute and a 15 minute during the day, plus another 10 minutes. So like if there are times in my days when I'm like, okay, I need it, kind of like I'll go into it and I just find the space to do that. But I have found that out of all of them, I feel like visualization, those type of meditations have helped me a lot, because it allows me to detach from anything that is keeping me feeling stuck or anxious or any of those feelings, and it allows me to tap into the future of like the possibility, what can go right, my goals, and it gets me more in a state of gratitude. And when you're in a state of gratitude, fear doesn't really exist. When you're in a state of gratitude, you're feeling so much like abundance in that moment that fear or stress doesn't really tap into it. So those would be it, meditations and visualizations.
Perfect. Also, there's a free resource called Insight Timer, which is like an app that I'll just plug in there. That also has a ton of free meditations and visualizations too. Yay. Okay. What is your favorite song to listen to when you need to feel inspired?
Girl, I have so many. But there's actually a go-to playlist that I like to put on when I need that inspiration, and it's called like Pretty Girl Magic. And in there, there's a song called Pretty Girl Magic, and it talks about manifestation and talks about just feeling confident, and it's all the vibes that I need to hear. So when I put that on, it just really gives me that pump of inspiration and that whole playlist in general. So if you were to look it up, there's a couple ones that pop up. And it's the one that has like estrellitas, like it's like Pretty Girl and like the little emoji of stars, and that's the one that I like to play.
Okay, perfect. Favorite quote or advice that you refer back to?
Ooh, there's two quotes that really kind of resonate with me. One of them is dare to dream big. I feel like no one has really told me that until I was in college. One of my professors, he was like, dare to dream big. And there was someone next to him who was like, dare to dream bigger than that. Like, just dare to dream bigger than your biggest dreams. Because if you're not dreaming big, then what are you doing? And so for me, it was like, okay, that really stuck with me. And it allows me to know, like, it's okay to dare to dream big. Daring to dream big, yes, it's going to be those crazy dreams where you think you're crazy. And if you think you're crazy, you're on the right path. You're dreaming big. And if it's scaring you and if it's exciting you, that's a great path to be in. Regardless of what that goal is, go big. And then the other one is be fearless in the pursuit of what sets your soul on fire. That one has also been one that has stuck with me since I was in college as well. Because anything that we want in life that we really, really want, it's gonna scare us and it's gonna require a ton of courage. But if your heart really wants it, if you're really passionate about it, go after it. It's waiting for you. It's there. It's on the other side of fear. So those would be like two of the biggest quotes that I really live by.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. And I feel like you said them in order because I think like first it takes even the guts to like dream, right? And that takes guts. It takes guts because I think like, yeah, one, we're not asked, like, what do you want to do? How do you like, I think I mentioned it in some of my content where I'm like, no one asked me what would make me happy. Like, no one asked me what I dreamt about, It was kind of like I knew my road path from a very young age, and I didn't question it, like, yep, this is what I have to do. I definitely think that we can play really small.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's a
Yeah,
lot of conditioning around that.
100%. What you said, like, we're kind of used to playing smart, and it's normalized. It's like, and if anybody gets out of that, quote unquote, out of societal norms, it's like, what are you doing? And so then comes up our first experience of like, oh yeah, I shouldn't be so loud about this, I shouldn't be so expressive about this. Like, for me, I would be scared to voice what I wanted to do. Back then, I didn't tell anybody that I wanted to travel the world because I knew they would think I would be crazy. I remember sharing that once, and my sister was like, good luck with that. And I was like, oh,
Mm,
oh. It's
mhm.
those type of comments that sometimes it's like we have these big dreams and we know what our heart wants, but we are scared to voice it. So that's why I say dare to dream big, voice the heck out of your dreams, because once they're out of your system, and it's like you put them out. And if you share it, for example, with a friend, now your friend's gonna be like, I mean, hopefully they don't tell you what my sister told me, right? But they're like, oh my gosh, like now they kind of keep you accountable. Hey girl, you said
Yeah.
you wanted to do this. I'm like, oh, you're right. Or like if you have a Instagram account, or a content creator, and you share a goal that scares you, share it. Then your audience knows. It's like, oh my gosh, they know, like, okay, now I want to keep myself accountable for that. So express your goals, dare to dream big, go all out.
Yeah. All right. Influencer that you follow that leaves you feeling positively inspired.
Oh, okay. I hope you all follow her. And maybe you know her, Priscilla. Her name is Erika Cruz. Have you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I follow her. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I came across her back in 2021, and then I got her as a coach. And
Mm.
I mean, when I was following her, her content was so uplifting about the first gen experience, about first being a first gen entrepreneur. Everything was just wow, resonating so much. And then once I got her as a coach and I got to be coached by her like face to face, I was like, whoa, this woman is, she is like walking the walk, and she is so inspiring and so empowering. And she's a great example of daring to dream big. This girl has
Mm.
the craziest goals and she's going after them regardless of qué va a decir la gente. She's gathering up all the courage that she can to go after her dreams. And so when I see her content or get to talk to her, it's like, wow, what a great inspiration and reminder that si se puede. Like
Yeah.
we can do it. Like it's the only thing holding us back is ourselves and our limiting beliefs.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely see her like as a leader, like I think like the way she portrays herself online. All right. So the Erica Cruz, I think that's her at.
Yes.
And then a feel good or powerful book or movie.
Ooh. I'm gonna take it back to the very first book I read that I reread over and over again. It's called You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. It's a nice yellow book, and she has a series of them. But that one really was a game changer for me. It really allowed me to take that leap of faith of pivoting careers, take that leap of faith of going all in full time in entrepreneurship, and it for the first time showed me how it was to work through my fears and understand a
Mm,
little bit more and understand the path that I wanted to go on, and how to go about it without holding myself back, because like we all know we're the ones that are holding ourselves back through our fears. And I think it was also a it was just so funny. She's so funny as an author. It's an easy read, and I
mhm.
have recommended it to like my friends, my sisters, and they've all enjoyed it. So everyone that I've shared it with, they've really gotten a lot of good stuff from it.
Yes, it's a beautiful book. Okay, awesome. All right. So before we close out this piece of the episode or part one of the episode, is there any last comments or things that you'd like to say to those listening?
Yeah, I would just say if you're a first gen listening, really think about, because we did talk a lot about passion and healing through a lot of things in our life. Really take a look at what you're passionate about or what your heart desires, and start asking yourself like, how can I move towards that goal, and what are some limiting beliefs or mindset blocks that I have around achieving that goal or moving towards that. Because it's until you identify what's holding you back, then yeah, it's until you identify that you will be able to like reflect on why you haven't maybe been able to take that step forward. Like, oh, I'm a people pleaser like me, or like, oh, I'm a perfectionist, I'm scared to fail, or oh, I'm like, what is that? And really start acknowledging that. I think that's going to help you so much in moving forward. And yeah, like I mentioned before, dare to dream big, dare to dream big. The world has so much to offer you, and just keep diving into your healing journey. It is so important, and linking arms with like-minded people, or gathering or getting yourself in a community where these conversations are being talked about. I think that's so important.
Yeah, agreed. Yay. All right, Claudia. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. And if you guys enjoyed this episode, please make sure you share it with your amigas, amigos, amigues. And remember, First Gen, I love you, I love me, and I can't wait for you to love yourself. Bye.